Dacă tot am ajuns la conferință și am văzut că cea mai pregnantă întrebare din partea voastră era cât mă costă o casă, am zis să-mi cer părerea și altor oameni care lucrează în străinătate despre care sunt costurile realizării unei case pasive și unul dintre invitații pe care am prins la interviu este domnul Laszlo Szeker, arhitect din Ungaria. El este inițiatorul conceptului de casă pasivă din Ungaria și am și făcut cursuri cu el în 2014 când am făcut cursurile în Ungaria. Laszlo, nagyon szépen köszönöm.
Nagyon örülök.
Ez a magyar neve meg tudom, úgyhogy angolul beszélni.
Okay.
We've met when I've made the courses in Hungary, and since
When
then,
was that?
2014,
14, yes.
2014, in that period. Oh, it was a hard course. And I remember that you've made the first passive house in Hungary.
Yes,
You were
that's
part of
right.
the team that made the first passive house in Hungary.
The first certified passive
Certified
house.
passive house,
Because
correct.
the first passive house experiment was 4 years before that.
Okay.
It's called Solanova. Even the PHI worked on that project. So I would say the first experiment with passive house technology was that project.
That project.
But I with my colleagues, I did the first certified project. So it was 4 of us who did this certified project, and
Four
all
people.
of us, 4 people, all of us had different projects before. Like family house, I had an office building, and when we made the first certified project, it was a cooperation of all of us, because none of us succeeded before. It was the 2008.
2008.
Yes.
Yeah, you need a lot of people because this was my first experience was with Mr. Benit Joseph from
Yes.
Hungary, with whom I've worked on the first PhD.
Yes.
So that was in 2008. Could you also please tell us what are you doing now in Hungary? What are you working? What's your office?
Yes, I'm running an office in Budapest, and we recently finished a very nice family house with a solar roof. So it is hopefully it will be a passive house plus or premium.
Is the one that you've
Yes,
present in the
I had
conference.
a presentation yesterday, and it's a very nice. I would call it a passive house version 2.
Version 2.
Version 2 because compared to the 10 years before projects, it has much better components and much more affordable, and it has very nice new features like heat pump, air heat pump, hot water production, solar roof tile, and for cooling and heating. We have
Solar roof tiles.
Yes, solar roof
It's like
tiles.
the Tesla ones.
It's like the Tesla ones, but it's not the Tesla. It's produced in Hungary.
In Hungary.
In Hungary, it's called Generon. It's a nice black colored roof tile, compatible with the same roof. So it is exactly the same size as the roof tile, and it's a solar panel.
Could you give us more details about this?
Yes, we placed 132 roof tiles, solar roof tiles, which generate 5.3 kilowatts peak energy.
So 132 tiles that produce 5.3 peak energy. So it's quite a lot.
Yes, it is comparable to the size of 12 or 14 panels,
Tiles.
but it's much nicer because it's integrated into the roof. So, especially in this location, it is prohibited to put solar PV on a visible surface because of the local regulation.
We have also places like this in Romania.
Some cities, because they are allowed to make their own building codes for the villages, and they can prohibit, for example, black roof tiles and solar panels. So with this solution, we could use easily, because this is a dark gray color. It's not black, and it's integrated.
And what's the cost of this kind of system?
It's a brand new system, so it doesn't have a. So you have to ask for a price for each project.
Each
a
project, okay.
price. I can tell you that we had a price which is very comparable to the similar PV system.
This is what I wanted to ask. So it's comparable the price of the.
It's comparable, of course. With a conventional system, you need to pay for the roof tiles plus the structure plus the PV.
So this is combined actually.
It's combined.
It's the cost of the tiles plus the structure plus the PV system.
Yes.
And it's the same with putting only the shingle.
Yes. Because otherwise it is more expensive. But if you take into consideration that you can leave the structure and you don't have to buy the roof tiles.
Does. Okay.
And so it is comparable. But maybe it's a little bit higher than the same conventional photovoltaics.
Well, it's still starting as a system, so
Yes.
it should be.
Yeah, it should be. It depends.
most expensive.
I'm not talking on the side of the producer, but probably it's also a question of demand and production.
In the production, because yes, you need to compensate the first production part.
Yes.
So, if we are speaking about costs, what is the average cost of building a passive house in Hungary?
A new one.
A new
We
one.
are talking about new one
New one.
because retrofit is another question.
Yes.
If we talk about new one, according to current situation, this is 5%.
5%.
5%.
So it's only 5% extra
Yes.
to build
To build.
a certifiable passive house.
It's my experience. It's my data, my experience. We have 5%. It was 15% 10 years ago.
So it was 50% more to build a passive house.
15% more 10 years ago. Now it's only 5%. It's always a question of the existing building code.
Yes.
So maybe after 2 years, when the NZEB will become compulsory for everybody, it will be probably zero difference, because NZEB is actually a little bit more expensive than a passive house.
How it's treated the NZEB standard in Hungary?
It's a tricky question because it's a European legislation, but we in the Hungarian building code we have serious gaps,
Yes.
like airtightness, the cold bridges, and the primary energy calculation, the consumption of electricity. So we still need a lot of things to harmonize the passive house standard.
Within the local legislation.
Yes,
We
yes.
have the same problem in
Yes,
Romania.
I can understand, because, for example, the airtightness is such a question which is not even dealt with. So we need some basic information about this.
Yeah, in our design code, energy efficiency design code, the air tightness is treated between 2 and 5, the N50 coefficient. So it's like,
Yes.
and that's something normal. So it's
Or I can mention the cold bridges, which is
yes.
becoming a major problem, because today construction, if you look at new construction, you will see complete facades, whatever orientation, even the north, complete glazing,
Yes.
with concrete balconies, concrete cantilevers. The full facade is huge cantilevers and full glazing. So no conventional walls actually. So and we have no taxative requirements for the cold bridges, for example. You have to consider it,
Yes.
but there is no requirement that it shouldn't be more than this or that percent.
Within the local design codes.
With the building code, yes.
Wow, that's actually the same that we do.
Yeah. So, but we know as we move towards more and more efficiency, like passive house, the importance of the cold bridges is gaining. It's not a 1% problem. It can be
It's
a
high
100% problem.
From my experience now as a structural designer, structural engineer, and passive house design, I cannot imagine anymore a house with thermal bridges. So for me, it becomes natural to think the details with the thermal bridges solved.
Yes.
It's like putting your jacket, you like connecting your jacket with your pants when you.
Okay. The other thing regarding the cost of the passive house in Hungary, in the recent 2 years, we had a quite dramatic price increase in
It's
construction.
the same happening now in Romania.
Something like 50% or so, which means that it is not a question of cost of the passive house now. I would say that the market has adjusted the prices. They accepted the passive house
Concept.
It's a much bigger problem with workforce and even sometimes with materials supply. So and the time factor is also becoming more and more important. So this 5%. Actually, I must say that the value of the passive house on the market is more than 5%. Let's say the market value for a passive house is something between 10 and 20%.
Plus. And how do you count this?
We made a survey, for example,
Okay.
and we asked people what do they think, what is worth a passive house, what is the value difference, and they say about 20% more valuable their house.
But this 20% was determined by their own perception, or was
Yes. So we asked a survey on internet, and the people reacted, and the average comes about 20% for the value. So people recognize that it is a future-proof investment, because even if the building codes will change in 5 years or 10 years, passive house will be still a good working and valuable asset. So if people decide to invest a lot of money in their houses, they are wise and clever if they invest in good quality like passive house.
Okay, so still, what's the average price? Let's say, what was the average price of building a passive house in 2008 or 2010, 2014, and an average price now, today?
That's what I told you, that it was about 15% difference.
It's the difference, but
And
I
now
mean,
it's about 5%.
around euros per square meter or something. Just some values, because I know
one
it's.
more thing. I didn't. I might be a little bit not correct, because I didn't calculate all those efforts which I and my colleagues put into we are enthusiasts.
Yes.
Maybe we should put our time and effort better in the price. But if you look at the actual prices, they are so. And regarding the costs, now it's about let's say 1,500 euros per square meter.
To build a passive house.
Yes.
So 1,500 euros per square for
No,
used
for any kind
house.
of.
It's used or constructed meter.
No, it's a new construction.
No, used treated for area or constructed footprint.
It's I see.
The area that you are mentioning.
We are always talking about the useful area.
Used area.
Used area.
Okay.
So not with the walls, without the walls.
So building a house in Hungary, not passive.
Not any
kind of
any
house
kind of
in Hungary.
residential would cost around let's say 1,500. And it doesn't matter if it's passive or not.
And what kind of materials do you use most
Basically,
in your project and used in the fields project that you know?
In most cases we use some kind of solid construction like brick. I prefer silicon and this white sandstone or
Sandstone, like
yes.
aerated concrete.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
and with some kind of EPS installation. That is the, in my opinion, that is the
Cost
most
efficient.
cost efficient and available and affordable solution. Of
For the
course,
Hungarian market.
for the Hungarian market. But I would also mention that we will try CLT in the near future with the wood insulation and looking forward to try this because the time factor become a very important issue.
What do you mean time factor? In having other kind of materials or in CLT?
No, the quickness of construction. So time is money, and if you can construct quickly, then it can be worse, even if it is slightly more expensive.
If you could count how much money does the time values, what would be your value? So when you say time is money, on what are you thinking?
It's sometimes simply question of workforce. In rural areas, it's very difficult to find people, and if you have skilled people, and if you have to bring them from Budapest, let's say, for a 200 kilometers site, it can be very expensive to pay. So then it is reasonable to consider some kind of prefabrication. It is okay to bring people for 1 or 2 weeks to a remote site and then pay for all the necessary extras. It becomes more and more feasible now than to conventionally hire people for a half year and keep them on the site.
How long takes to build a house? Let's say an energy efficient house or a passive house in Hungary in traditional materials.
In our recent example, or the last our last construction project, it took altogether 8 months to complete from the first scratch to
Moving in. So 8 months
yes,
with traditional.
We started in the middle of April and they moved in by Christmas.
How big was the house?
It was about 135 square meters plus garage.
135.
Yes.
So it's an average house for a family.
Yes, it's medium size average family house. And we built it with a team of let's say 4 people who were constantly on the site. And
the same people mostly.
Yes,
same team.
Same people, and they used every possible machinery we could use, like for excavation and pouring the concrete and prefabricated the steel wires and.
Do you have trained teams with who you are working with?
Yes.
Not to do the same training again and again?
Yes.
So you have your own team to be able to do it?
We have very specialized teams for plastering, for example. Mm-hmm. They do it with good machines very quickly, so they don't do the old way like making the mortar and by hand. So they have a specialized team to make the concrete in 1 day for the flooring and also the mechanical parts and the roof. So the tiles were done in 2 days, let's say.
The same tiles that you spoke.
Because they have a special conveyor to the roof and so on.
To bring materials.
So I would say it's a conventional way of building, but an advanced conventional.
Advanced conventional.
Yes.
That sounds interesting.
Yes, because it's not the old way of so making the walls is very quick. Actually, making one level is about 3 days or something.
in traditional construction.
Yes.
Ooh. It takes weeks in Romania to do this. That's why I've shifted for prefabricated walls.
Yes,
That's why
yes.
I've shifted for on CLT because
Yes, but you know the machines bring the bricks and with the crane they put on the top, and so we minimize the labor.
the hand
site
labor.
Yes.
So actually, you can do this because you have quite a very good skilled people who are trained, and they
Yes.
have some extra technologies that helps
and,
them. No?
And because of this becomes quite expensive compared to the traditional methods.
Methods where
Traditionally, the people spent a lot of time with construction with very simple tools and a lot of
handworking.
handworking and a lot of problems and inefficiency, but it was relatively cheap. But today everybody goes to work to Germany. We are now here in Heidelberg. I saw the guys who are working on the street. They came from Hungary, so that's why we don't have people working at home.
Yeah, it's the same with.
Maybe the prices will go up to the same as in Germany, and then they will come back. We have this tendency.
Do you know how much is a passive house made in Germany? What's the price compared to the Hungary?
I don't have figures, but you should ask somebody who.
From Germany.
Yes.
Okay, we'll think to ask somebody from Germany about this.
I think it should be about 2,000 or.
This is what
more
I've
than-
heard. It's between 2,000 2,050
Yes.
euros per square meter.
Yes.
How many passive houses are now in Hungary certified?
In the database, it's something like 27.
27 certified.
But there are a couple of, or a good couple of projects that are still not listed. Like we have bigger projects like 100 flat condominium and passive house kindergarten and such projects. They are still not listed on because the designers are very busy.
Well, it's full season.
They don't have the time to upload their projects, but we might help them to upload. So I would say maybe around the range of 50 is the certified projects.
The real certified
The
projects.
real certified and several hundreds are not certified.
So this is in a 10-year,
Yes.
the 10-year challenge. You know, how many have passive houses?
Yes, you have to have in 10 years 1,000. You can in Romania. You can.
We should have 1,000.
Yes, because you have double size and so double. Instead of 500, you need 1,000.
1,000.
So, yes, so you can set the target to make 1,000
So you've heard what Mr. Szeker said. We should have
minimum. This is the minimum.
minimum 1,000 passive houses in Romania in the next.
But I'm sure you will do around 100 or 200. You alone.
I don't want to do them alone. I'm just starting to
Yes. So
say other people how to do it because this is the normality actually, and we should go there.
I must tell you that very recently we were working on a advisory board for Budapest 2030. This is strategic thinking about the future of the capital city, and we were advising on climate issues.
I saw your presentation about climate change.
Yes, and
So this is for the city council.
yes, it is for the city council, and since we will have an election in this autumn, they are a little bit busy now to making proposals. So we already proposed to make the passive house districts.
Whoa.
Budapest. It is not accepted yet, but at least it is on the agenda, and maybe in 5 or 10 years this can be accepted.
So you somehow managed to do some ice breaking in changing the laws.
Yes.
By the power of example of the project
Yes.
that you were
Yes.
involved in.
What is accepted, we proposed a couple of new pilot projects. We have a lot of pilot projects, but now we want to make some demonstration pilot projects like schools and public buildings, maybe hospitals
That are certified.
that are certified and passive or passive plus or premium.
But they are as pilot projects. They are financed by the local
Yes,
government or
yes,
the local.
yes.
Aha, okay.
And so they will be accessible and will be good examples for other districts.
That's a very good.
And we also proposed a lot of retrofit because we have these city blocks, this old
Yes, plus we have
turn of the
old-
century, urbanly very nice projects, but energetically they need a lot of improvement. And nobody dealt with this problem before. And we are proposing a complete retrofit, a deep retrofit, we call a deep renovation program.
I had an episode on my blog, a recent episode about retrofitting. Could you give us some advices from your experience, just short advices, what to be focused on doing the retrofit?
Well, I did recently a kind of retrofit project, and the first thing we surveyed the building if it is worth at all keeping, and it's a big responsibility because a deep retrofit means that you will keep the structure for another 35 or 50 years. So if there are structural problems, then you don't spend. At least we found that the walls looked very okay, very good, but when the roof was removed, then the walls collapsed, and so we decided not to keep the walls, only the basement, the cellar and the basement.
And you've demolished everything.
Yes, and because it was such a big. It was cheaper to rebuild the whole wall than to maintain and improve and of course we need to change and the function has to be renewed also. So in our experience it was we kept the size, we kept the cellar, we kept the roads and the situation of the building, but we decided to rebuild completely.
Wasn't that shocking for the owners?
Yes, it was a 100-year-old building, and everybody said we are demolishing. But we rebuilt it very quickly in 2-3 months. So people noticed that it is actually reconstructed. Reconstructed.
Ah, okay.
So it is. I think it is very important that you have to have a good foundation and a good solid walls and in many cases you have wooden slabs.
Yes.
That is very dangerous to keep, and then you spend a lot of money. And it's not the cost of the slab or the structure today, but the machinery, the installation, the windows, all the other things. It's maybe 80% compared to the structure itself. So if you have an outdated, obsolete structure like wooden floors and not stable. We discovered that the brick was okay, the brick itself, but the mortar was dried out and it was just sand. So
it often happens.
And then we did some checks, but didn't prove it only when we began to actually dismantle the house. So it is a very tough question.
Well, it happens. I experienced this kind of problems that I've started to.
Yes, and this is a very big responsibility for the architect, the designer architect, who makes the decision to keep the building, and they spent a lot of money, and then the wall will crack or collapse or something. So I think retrofitting and renovating is a very nice thing, but first is structure and aesthetics and stability.
Okay, it's very good advice. And if you are at the chapter of advices, could you give one advice for a future owner of a house in Romania? Why should he build a passive house?
Because it's the only worth construction today. It's the best worldwide acknowledged sustainable construction. simply the best, and it's affordable, it's healthy, it's comfy, but do with the right guys, do with the guys who know what they do,
And
do with experts, ask for proof or proven projects, ask for expertise. It's not something that can be done by chance. It has to be done by knowledge.
That's very good.
and,
Not
uh,
done, not by chance, by
No,
knowledge.
don't try to do passive house. It's it's like it's like Formula One racing. If you have a driving license, it's not enough.
So having only a driving license is not enough to drive.
Yes, no. Having an architect license or a mechanical engineer license is not enough to make a good passive house.
And then could you give us an advice for the future designers that are now forming in Romania as a passive house designers?
Yeah, they have to go for a passive house course.
Yes, start with the course.
Start with the course and do a certification with their houses. So if they certify, then they will have a proof that it is really working, because it is quite easy to make mistakes. And in a conventional or a traditional house, it's not a big problem if you make a mistake. But with a passive house, it can be a much bigger problem. So take good care of doing a good job and give the job to those who can really do this. And I advise to passive house designers and builders to certify their projects. So
certify their projects.
They have a supervision on their jobs.
Because this helps them search their problems and their errors and to improve the process. Because usually in Romania, people, they do want passive houses, but they are not really interested in certification.
I must warn you that we in Hungary we understand this problem and we understand the mentality, but to be too clever is not always good. So also in Hungary, people want to solve the questions, okosba megoldani and other things. but in this you need knowledge. You need a good sound knowledge to do this. It's not just being clever.
So knowledge is the power.
Yes.
Since I met you, and since I do know you, and since I'm following you on the conferences, you also have a lot of energy. And I think that doing the first passive house in Hungary and promoting this concept required from you energy, a lot of energy. So my question is, why you do what you do? Why you do this? And what gives you energy in what you are doing?
I think it is very important that the question is interesting for me, and I'm not sticking to just one solution or one concept, but generally sustainability and efficiency interests me. So I'm interested in the broad question. Otherwise, you have to do a lot of physical things like walking, cycling, and sports. I have a vineyard, for example, which I'm keeping, and there you have to slow down and do some work in the nature.
But that actually it's training again your mind. No?
Yes. And actually, I find that I'm making wine, and making good wine is like making good passive house. you need a little luck, and you need a lot of knowledge and experience.
Can we find somewhere the certified wine?
Yes, sure, if you can.
Do you have any certification process of the wine where we could taste it?
No, it's just tasted. But it's easy to ruin. But Okay, so it's also difficult or easy to ruin the project.
Easy to ruin a good wine. It's
Yes,
like easy to ruin
yes,
a good house.
good project. So have to make a quality assurance.
It's a very good comparison between wine and houses.
Yeah,
It's very,
I'm not an expert in wine, but I can tell you that to keep everything fresh is very important, and keep good qualities, good material, and good process, and it's very important to have and you still have to be lucky.
it's like with the blower door test, you know.
Yes,
You still have to be
yes.
It's a lot of science, but still somewhere something is leaking. I do have a project where it's the third blower door test failed, so we just started to open everything.
Yes, that's the importance of the certification, because if it's not certified, at least you don't publish
Your project.
your blower door test.
No, I'm also showing them because from mistakes we learn continuously.
Yes. I must tell you that in our latest project we did the blower door test, and the first one was 0.61.
61. So it should be 0.6 and it's
Yes,
0.61
yes,
at the
and
very limit.
We had to make corrections and repeat.
Why?
So if it's not certified, then we don't care.
Yes, but it's.
But if it is, you have to.
Where can people from Romania find you? Where can they find you if they want to speak with you, to ask questions, or to collaborate with
Yeah,
you?
we have an association. It's called Passive House Hungary.
Passive House Hungary.
Yes, the abbreviation is PHM.
PHM.
.hu.
Okay.
And you can visit our website. And,
I'll put the description. I'll
Yes.
put the link into this
yes,
description.
and then you can see our activities. We have open days and conferences, and in 2 weeks' time we have a workshop on cold bridges, for example.
Cold bridges.
And they are open, so you can visit them.
So, with what you think you could help people from Romania to build better houses, to build better and to design?
I think maybe you can look at our examples. They might be closer than other European examples. Look at what we did, and also keep an eye on Germany always.
Yes, but sometimes Germany is way too far.
Yeah. But today with internet, it's
It's easy. Yes, but still people feel the need to touch.
Yes, when I was starting my first passive house project, I had a chance to talk to Wolfgang Feist in Bregenz, and the thing he recommended me is I had a 5-minute talk during the lunch, and said, okay, I want to make the first passive house. What do you recommend? He said, okay, put 20 centimeters on the wall and 40 on the roof, because the heat is going up, and insulate the roof the best, 40
Yes.
centimeters, and use triple glazed windows, and use a good heat exchanger for ventilation.
So it were 4 simple
Yes.
advices that you've received from Mr. Wolfgang Feist,
Yes, in 5 minutes. And
the
then-
founder of the passive house
Yes.
concept.
Yes, and
Better
at that
insulation.
Time, yes, and that time we didn't have PHPP yet.
Okay,
It was
that's
2006 or 7. Yeah.
that's a good info.
Yeah. So if do a good insulation, good windows, good ventilation,
And good air tightness.
good air tightness.
And be aware of thermal bridges.
Yes. 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 Yeah.
Thank you very much, Laszlo. Asta a fost un interviu cu Laszlo Szeker, arhitectul care a făcut primele case pasive din Ungaria și care acum se ocupă foarte mult de promovarea conceptului, făcând proiecte prototipe cum spitale, școli, dar având și influența asupra legii. Urmărește în continuare blogul pentru a vedea și astfel de interviuri făcute cu oameni din zona caselor pasive din toată lumea. Mikor kész lesz, küldöm a
A linket, jó.
teszek